Hello and welcome. This is our three-man booth down to two today. I'm Dan Salem here with Phil of the View from Section 323 podcast. Bud couldn't be with us. He had a heart attack from the Jets game. No, just kidding. Phil, welcome. Great to be back with you and doing our show.
Yeah, Bud's actually en route. He'll be here next week, but he sends his regards, and I know he's going to. You'll be able to talk enough about the Jets for both of you guys today.
Yeah, I don't have a lot positive to say, even though I'm looking positively forward. So
this would be the perfect time for one of his famous rants. But don't worry, there's a lot of season left. We'll get to those.
Yeah, there'll be another game like this, I'm sure. So that's a good place to start. This was a weird week in the NFL, but I think week 3 kind of is weird in general. Like nobody is who we think they are yet. But I wrote yesterday on BuzzChomp in regards to the Jets that there are 24 teams between 1-2 and 2-1. That's everybody in the league but 6. It's really insane.
Yeah, week 1, and we mentioned it the other day, or last week actually, that the first few weeks are really like the preseason. You know, teams don't get a chance to run all their reps, and a lot of these guys, much like the Giants O-line, don't get a chance to gel together, and it takes a few weeks. And we saw a whole bunch of stuff in week 1. It was completely different in week 2, and then week 3 is just none of it makes any sense. All 3 of these weeks have nothing to do with each other. We thought Buffalo was the worst team in the league, and they go out and railroad Minnesota. Who would have saw that one coming? So a lot of people are under Survivor right now.
Yeah. I still think Buffalo is one of the worst teams in the league.
Still agree.
I don't think they're as bad as Arizona, but that was a big surprise to me. Were you surprised to see the success of the rookie quarterbacks more or less in their first games? I mean, I guess Rosen for Arizona didn't do much of anything. He kind of performed like a rookie. But what's-his-face, Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield both did well in their semi-debuts. Darnold did well in his debut.
Yeah, we'll get to Mayfield and Darnold in a second. I believe they threw Josh Allen in – I'm sorry, they threw what's the other guy in Arizona?
Rosen. I saw him come in the fourth quarter with 5 minutes to go, and they were down by 3. It was kind of insane.
They're basically like, here, win the game for us, and Sam Bradford is sitting on the sidelines. That was kind of a weird situation to put him in.
He was in way over his head so there was no other game on, so I switched to it, and like he threw 2 interceptions, which you kind of expect from a rookie running his first 2-minute drill. He didn't even I don't understand the logic there from Arizona. Yeah, Bradford's having a bad game, but he doesn't give you a worse chance to win.
But listen, they're really grasping at straws because that's one of the worst teams in the entire league, much like Buffalo. And they're just at this point, we knew all 4 of these guys were going to start. And it's funny, they're actually pretty much all going to be starters in week 4. Darnell obviously is the starter. Mayfield's named the starter. Rosen is the starter, and Josh Allen's the starter. So all 4 of these guys, we just knew it was a matter of time. But coincidentally, they're all starting next week.
I thought that maybe teams would wait till October 1st, but they all jumped on the September bandwagon, I guess. Why not?
Why not?
I want to start on a high note before we get into the Jets. Do you think the Patriots are actually as bad as they looked the last 2 weeks, or what is this?
I think they're just buying their time till Edelman gets back, because once Edelman gets back, that's going to free up Chris Hogan. It's going to free up Gronk. Then it's going to free up some of the running game, and we know Edelman's obviously a huge cog in that wheel. So they're really just buying their time. I was not as surprised that they lost to Jacksonville, because Jacksonville could be the AFC favorites.
Yeah.
Playing Detroit when, like you said, the first 2 weeks we really didn't know what to expect. Detroit's another surprise team that goes in and takes on the New England Patriots, the defending AFC champs for the last 15 years, it feels like.
Yeah.
That was a surprise to me on Sunday night.
The only thing I can figure is Matt Patricia knew their game plan, and Bill Belichick did not change it. Because
I thought it was going to be the other side of the coin. If anything, I thought Belichick knows all the tips and tricks that Patricia was going to do, because Belichick has his hands and fingerprints on everything on that team, and he knows the ins and outs of offense, defense, special teams, and everything. So I actually thought the opposite was going to happen on Sunday night, which everyone's surprised, I think. I mean, look at Detroit. The Jets rolled them. They had a terrible week 2. They looked a little better, but I didn't expect them to beat the Patriots. That was another surprise of week 3.
Yeah, I mean, I knew they weren't quite that bad, but I mean, so the Patriots added, was it Josh Gordon?
Gordon, yeah, who was inactive. They
missed the game. They didn't even play. what's with Tom Brady? Tom Brady's got probably one of the worst fantasy lines for any weekly starter of in the league from a quarterback standpoint.
Yeah. Like I said, I think they're just buying their time because they know Edelman misses this last game or one more game, and then he's back in the lineup. And this happens with the Patriots year after year after year. That first month of the season, I mean, we joke about it, but it literally is their preseason. They were 2-2 after 4 games last year, and then they rolled off 13 or they were 13-1 after that.
I agree that like you want to survive September at 2-2, which is why both of our teams are in a pretty decent position. I mean, the whole 24 teams in the league are in a decent position to do so.
Right.
But
being 0-3 is terrible.
Well, no, you're done. I mean, you're basically eliminated.
Essentially.
They were rattling off stats. If 1 and 2 teams make the playoffs 25% of the time, 2 and 1 teams make it 65% of the time. So there's definitely a distinct difference there, but it's not a huge difference. And this year, the league feels a lot more even than it has in recent seasons. But Edelman's just one player. Now, I do think the Patriots will get going. And
I do too.
I don't think they'll be but as a Jets fan, their schedule is looking easier and easier as the season progresses because, I mean, they should have had an easy schedule because they were a bad team last year, but it didn't look that easy on paper. And now Jacksonville looks extremely vulnerable after they could barely do anything against a hobbled Tennessee team, which is – I think Tennessee is very good. So I'm no longer scared of the Jaguars, which is exciting because – let's get into the Jets game because that was like I wrote a little about this.
Before you do that, what's a bigger surprise, that the Patriots are where they are or the Dolphins are 3-0?
Patriots.
Yeah, I would agree.
The Dolphins perennially start hot. They've gone like 4-1, 5-2 multiple times, and then they just cool off as the weather cools off and 9-7, 8-8. I don't believe in them yet, because it's still early in the season, and they're on the high of Ryan Tannehill being back, and they added a couple new defenders into the mix. They didn't beat the Jets that handily. Like the Jets made a few key mistakes, and the Dolphins won.
It was 14 points off of turnovers, and they couldn't get out of that. That's what it was. So I mean, the Jets have a problem. They can't pass block. So these teams like the Browns and the Dolphins were getting to the quarterback, and Sam Darnold, he moves well, but like he doesn't have enough of a rapport with his receivers yet to find anybody at Quincy Enunwa. And I don't know if the Jets – Robbie Anderson looked good last season, but he hasn't done a damn thing yet. So they need more than one guy, and that's really what held them back. And so I'm curious when Miami actually plays a team with a codified offense. I don't know if the Patriots have that yet without Edelman. We'll see next week. But I don't think Miami's really played anybody yet that has an offense worth talking about. Hey, they could be 3 games up in the division by next week, so it'll be interesting to see what happens after next week's game. So, all right, without any further ado, I know you want to jump into the Jets.
Okay, so the Jets played one complete game and destroyed Detroit.
Right.
They played a bad first half against Miami and then a pretty good second half when they shut them out and lost by 8. They played a great first half against the Browns and then an awful second half, and they lost by 4. Now, I feel like it was in the back of Sam Darnold's head that this was his friend Baker Mayfield's debut, and like, oh, wouldn't it be nice for him to do well in his debut? Oh, look how good he's doing. Oh, I do want to win, but this is my friend. No, I'm actually just grasping at straws here, but but the Jets could not get to Mayfield. Like, the entire Browns team elevated to another level on offense and defense. It was like they weren't playing for Tyrod Taylor, and then as soon as Mayfield stepped on the field in the second half, they decided they were going to show up because the Jets were getting to them over and over and over again on defense in the first half. I thought they were going to cause a couple sack fumbles for touchdowns, and they didn't quite get it. But considering Cleveland's front four and how much they got to the Jets, I was really happy with the 14 points in the first half because the Jets were overmatched trying to block the Cleveland defensive line. And
Myles Garrett is no joke.
Well, it was the same thing against Miami with Sue. So, like, they can't stop Pro Bowl defensive linemen. Basically, they can't stop them.
Most people can't, and that's why they're Pro Bowl defensive linemen. I mean, they're all over the place, and you want to hold your own. And you're right, that was a tale of 2 games because the moment Tyrod Taylor got concussed, because I don't know, this is the way I saw it.
So he may have needed to go out, but there was no way they were going to bring him back on the field in the second half.
Completely agree. But as that game was going on, I mean, the Jets were getting to Tyrod Taylor. He was making bad throws. They were in his head, and he was getting up. He was holding his ribs, holes in his head, and then the moment he goes down, it's funny. Not that the crowd was cheering for him to be hurt, but they knew that Mayfield was coming in.
The announcers were like almost promoting it the entire first half. Oh, it's going to be Mayfield soon, right? Oh, they're going to go to Mayfield, right? Oh, they got to bring Mayfield in. And then like it was almost like it was pre-planned. Now, I don't think the NFL is rigged, but it was almost like it was pre-planned for Taylor to go out and Mayfield to come in the second half and win his debut in the second half of the game on Thursday Night Football. It's the number one pick. The Browns break their curse. It's almost too perfect.
It is.
Then wins his debut game on primetime as the number one pick for a team that hasn't won in 2 years. It's like too perfect.
And he looked extremely good doing it. He was making throws. That ball was coming out like a bullet. He was making throws all around the field. That first drive, I don't think they scored on the first drive before the half, but if they had another minute and a half, he probably would have.
So this is an extremely small sample size, but what I've seen of him, what I've seen of Darnold, what I saw of Rosen and Allen, he looks by far the best. Now, it probably they actually look as good as they were drafted in the order currently, because Mayfield looked infinitely more prepared than Darnold did in that game. Now, Darnold looks decent, and I think Mayfield has better receivers, I guess. But he somehow, maybe they told him he was going to come in the second half because he looked like he was ready to play before he even was told he was going to play. I don't know. Or maybe he just seized the moment. Good for him. It was impressive. But
it was like you said, it was the perfect storm. It was the perfect atmosphere for him to do it. And, So did you know that actually I saw this today as I was looking for some show content, and I came across an unfortunate stat that Sam Darnold actually has the highest interception rate at 5.4% this season. Now, he's been in obviously a lot longer than the rest of those guys, but
of the four, right?
Well, it just says it didn't actually say of the four, but he just has the highest interception rate at 5.4%.
Oh, that's interesting because I don't feel like he's thrown that many picks. I mean, maybe he's thrown 2 a game.
That's about what it feels like, and I don't know if you figure that's average, but that probably is a lot. That's six interceptions already. But
yeah, I mean that was the knock on him coming out of college. So for him to start his pro career throwing 2 a game, I'm not surprised. I think that's something you can always correct.
So what were some of the other things you liked about the game?
I liked the Jets running game. I've been
Crowell
happy
played
with
very well.
Yeah, I've been pretty happy with it through 3 weeks. Both guys are splitting carries, and they're both racking up the yards. I mean, Crowell found the end zone twice. Powell nearly did, but he got like 70, 80 yards on the ground. They are run blocking and running the ball really well. Unfortunately, that hasn't translated to play action, but we'll see. Probably not this week against Jacksonville because I think they're just as tough as the Browns who are up front. But, I mean, who knows? I really like the running game. If they can keep running the football – Darnold's managing the offense pretty well. He's making his reads well. I don't think he had a lot of time. He had no time to throw the ball this past week. And so considering how quickly he had to make all his decisions, I thought he did really well. I mean, he got 14 points in the first half. Get in the second half, like I said, I felt like the Browns stepped it up a notch. They still took the lead 17-14 with 5 minutes to play. So he couldn't get them in the end zone. But he took them down the field, and they kicked the field goal, and they were ahead. So when you're ahead halfway through the fourth quarter, that's a win, I guess. Now, they couldn't hold the game. They lost. And then he didn't do anything with the 2-minute drill. So, I mean.
Those last 2 interceptions are, those are desperation, and you really can't, big deal. Those are the last drive of the game. But what do you do with Robbie Anderson? I mean, he had that costly fumble that the Browns turned immediately into a touchdown. I
don't know what's going on with him because he was so good last season getting the ball from McCown, and the two of them had this like they were. I go like this. I don't know. They're kissing like they're lovers, right? they felt like lovers in the game, but Onwenu wasn't there. So now maybe Robbie Anderson's just a head case, and he feels like he had all this off the field trouble, and he's not the number one guy anymore.
No, and Onwenu is clearly the number one guy there, and he was last year until he got hurt, and he's just obviously still playing spot back on the line there.
And Curse is second because Curse is reliable. I don't know. I mean, they need Anderson, but I think you give him another shot. The fumble is.
It was a costly fumble at the wrong time.
Well, and
But
that's been the Jets again this season, and I guess it's funny because Todd Bowles is supposed to be like this disciplinarian coach, but they seem to make the worst freaking penalties at the most opportune times for their opponents. Tremaine Johnson getting his penalty on defense led to a Browns touchdown, like early in the third quarter. That could have flipped the whole game script. Like, I think it was 3rd and 10, and they stopped him, but then he got a penalty, or offsetting penalties. They got to redo the down, and yeah, he got an unsportsmanlike. I mean, it's just unsportsmanlike penalties shouldn't happen when your coach is Todd Bowles. I get it when it was Rex Ryan, but with Todd Bowles, come on.
Well, that was the one that, if I remember correctly, that had nothing to do with the play. The play was so far from being over, and then they called the unsportsmanlike. It was just, I agree with you. That penalty, it's so worthless. Why even have it?
So this hurts because my dad hates end zone celebrations and like wants to turn off the TV when he watches players do end zone celebrations or celebrate after a sack, and they go, ugh, right? So
now they encourage it.
What?
Now they're encouraging the touchdown celebrations.
But so bringing it back around to this situation, these guys were celebrating in the face of their opponent, and they got flagged for it. When what's his face got after the touchdown, he was like rubbing his butt. Now this was his old team. I get it. But
that was on the back page. I know you don't get the New York Daily News, but that was on the back page of the New York Daily News on Monday.
Oh.
I'm sorry, on Friday.
Those kill me because I know when we played football, I did that. Like when I sacked a quarterback, I wanted to yell in his face and scream at him, "Ha ha, I got you." But it's such an avoidable thing to do. Like we were an undisciplined team. I feel like the Jets with Bowles is so disciplined. He barely speaks. Why are they acting this way? That bothers me. These penalties, which cost them a few points here or there, and then they lose by 4. That's the game. And they blew a huge opportunity because 2-1 as opposed to 1-2 makes all the difference right now, especially in the AFC.
It does. Now,
I think this is a good opportunity to transition to the Giants because.
Well, it is. I want to put my final stamp on Cleveland.
Oh, sorry. Yes. We have Bud Light for Bud.
Yeah, Bud Light for Bud. And here's the Cleveland finally breaking the curse. And here's the Jets letting Cleveland win their first game in a year and a half. Let's cut that out. Let's not do that anymore. Come on.
No. Now we did. So maybe the Jets could take credit for opening the freezer, the refrigerator.
That was everywhere. That was amazing. There was a whole video on that. They cut the chains off and they're all celebrating. Good for them. I mean, listen, They have had nothing to celebrate for the longest time. So maybe they'll have their moment, and maybe next week the Jets come out, they beat Jacksonville, which is going to be, like you said, a great test. This will all be forgotten about. It really will.
Yep. So your Giants saved their season because they're 1-2 like everybody else, and not one of the 3 0-3 teams, which are basically, I mean, it'd be a shocker even if Houston rebounds from 0-3. So what did you like about the Giants? Because besides the fact, I mean, it can't be all the fact that they benched Eric Flowers. It can't simply be the fact that they benched their worst player and now the team feels like, yes, we got him out of the lineup and they play better. Like, what did you see? What is it?
You're right, but isn't it just an enormous coincidence that the second that they bench him, now Chad Wheeler, I don't know if that was his first. I think he played a little bit last year, but he had to go up against J.J. Watt, who's still got 3 sacks and 8 tackles for losses and all this stuff. He's going to get his stats because he's an all-pro tight end, and doesn't matter what year it is, coming off an injury, he's going to get his stuff.
Yeah,
I can't even fathom what would happen if Eric Flowers had to go against them. Now you're right, one player on a football team does not make a difference, but I mean, from Sunday night playing against Dallas to this week playing against the Texans, who the Texans are arguably a better defense than Dallas. Not arguably, they are a better defense than Dallas.
I mean, at least on paper. I don't know.
On paper, they were moving the ball up and down the field. They had a 20-3 lead. They're getting sacks. They're getting interceptions. They're forcing fumbles. Eli's taking them on 77-yard drives. Beckham gets 9 catches for 109 yards. Barkley has another first quarter opening drive touchdown. It just everything seemed to turn around. And you're right, it needed to at the worst time, because if they go 0-3,
over,
the season's eventually over, and which would really suck. But I mean, I didn't see anything that after the Jacksonville game, and I said to you guys, I was convinced they were going to beat Dallas because I saw the positives. I saw that what they could do, and I saw how they moved the ball against Jacksonville. And to lay a dud against Dallas was just absolutely disheartening. Because did you see the Dallas game last weekend?
I did. They're not very good at all because Seattle's not very good. and they
They're
couldn't
not.
they couldn't
And
move the ball.
they played against the Giants. They made them look like, Super Bowl champs. But I like that. Yeah, Eli, I think, was a little more aware in the pocket. He obviously had more time because he was completing balls to Shepard. He was completing them to Rhett Ellison scored a touchdown when Ingram went down. Beckham had his 9 catches. Barkley had 3 or 4 catches. It's just the whole offense as a whole. And maybe they did something on offense where they played, they schemed a little better. They had better passes. Just
Or
you know, one thing because there's so many things that were different from last week to this week.
Well, they probably didn't have to scheme around the hole that was Eric Flowers. Now, because my brother writes about the Giants, so he's been on Flowers for a year or so.
Everybody has.
And everyone has.
He's the punching bag. He's the easy target.
So they take him out, and then the offensive line gels. Because most savvy football fans know that teams win or lose in the trenches. So, I was getting on the Jets for not pass protecting, and that really hurt them. The Giants finally are able to pass protect, and then Shepard has a great game. Beckham's back in it. I mean, Ingram, hopefully he's not out too long because that'll hurt.
It's a sprained MCL, so he's going to be week to week. I probably expect him to miss this week just for that's the way these things go. So hopefully we get Vernon back. Hopefully we get Eli Apple back because they got to go up against a Saints team who, as we've seen, can put up 50 points in a hurry.
Yeah. So the Saints can't play defense.
That's correct.
So all the Giants have to do is play a little defense, and then maybe they can slow them down enough to win because the Saints aren't going to stop Barkley. Barkley's getting more and more holes now if the Giants passing game is going to get going. And Matt Ryan made the Saints look foolish, and Manning's got the same weapons. So
he might have better weapons because he's got a better running back. He's got a better tight end. Well, Ingram's hurt, but he's got a better receiving core, I think. Because Julio and Calvin Ridley had 3 touchdowns, but he's a rookie. So if you're going to let a rookie score 3 touchdowns on you, how about some veterans? And I believe this is the first week because they were against the Browns at home. Then they were against whoever else they played. Oh, the Buccaneers at home. Then they played Atlanta indoors. So they've had 3 games in a row in an indoor climate control facility. This is going to be their first game outdoors. And I don't know if Breeze's home road splits are as bad as like Ben Roethlisberger's, but going from indoors to outdoors is completely different.
I think his indoor-outdoor split is pretty bad.
That's good because I thought it was. I know we all know Ben's because it's the most talked about one. But
yeah,
you're going into MetLife Stadium. Up here, it's raining and freezing out here right now. I don't know what's going to be this Sunday, but it's going to be fall. It's not going to be 73 and perfect as it is indoors. So that really brings up my feeling about September football is the weather because the Saints are a warm weather team and they've been scoring at will. So now they're going to go to the Giants in a reasonably cold weather game. Now, barring it's fall weather, yeah,
fall weather, but it's not their Bayou indoor stadium air like temperature. So, are the Giants going to be a good cold weather team this year because of Barkley? What do you like? Manning always plays better in playoffs, so.
Well, we have to get to the playoffs first, but
I'm just meaning like as the season progresses because they had a slow start.
The way you play in the cold is you run the football, and you got to have a running back that can pound the ball up and down the field, and obviously we have that in Barkley. It happened last week in Dallas because Collinsworth mentioned it, and we mentioned it last week how the first guy that goes to tackle Barkley misses. Not that he misses, he can't bring him down. So he did that 2 weeks ago. He did it last week. Every time he runs is just so much fun to watch because he dances all around the place. He's eluding tacklers. And he's scoring touchdowns, which obviously is great. And he's not getting hit behind the line, which is even more impressive.
Yeah, I've really been excited for him. I mean, I'm always excited when the top 10 players excel. I don't like top 10 busts because these guys are supposed to be good.
Except when Ezekiel Elliott can't get on the ground. We're happy about that one.
Okay. Well, I'm not as happy about that because he's on my fantasy team, but he's still scoring points. I'm having a good season there. So no one wants to hear about my fantasy team, but I'm having a good season. Not in spite of him. So I want to bring this back around for a second to like Le'Veon Bell, who is the other side of Saquon Barkley, because Barkley is the rookie doing really well, but Bell's like the upper echelon running back, right? He's forfeited $2.5 million. Now, I saw rumors that the Packers were maybe interested. Aaron Rodgers was pushing. Obviously, the Jets called. Everyone calls. Do you have a sense where he's going to go? If he like where because he can make or break a season for a team on the playoff cusp. And I'm very intrigued.
I honestly have I don't even have an inkling where he can go. And the problem with that is you'll get him for this year, and then you have to sign him to a long-term deal next year. So without knowing obviously everyone's cap situation, he's going to want obviously the top money as a running back. So it has to be a team that can afford him. Aaron Rodgers just got paid the highest quarterback salary in the league. So again, I don't know salary cap and all that fun stuff, but it's got to be a team that can pay him this year and then give him the money that he wants for, what is it, 3 or 4 years, 16, 17 million.
Yeah.
That's that's the good and the bad thing about the NFL is there's no super teams like the NBA because there's a salary cap. There's a hard salary cap and you can't go over it. So it was funny. I heard on the radio that they said that Pittsburgh should trade him to someone like Buffalo. He doesn't want to play. Trade him somewhere where he's not going to be happy. Why accommodate him? But I said in the beginning when Bud and I were doing the podcast, I jokingly said as one of my season-long predictions, my bold predictions, that Le'Veon Bell is not going to take another snap for the Steelers. And at the time, we both laughed it off. But as the season got closer and closer, that was becoming a really big reality. Because
he'll report. He'll report to get his year of eligibility, and they'll make him stand on the sidelines. I don't think they'll put him in the game.
He'd be happy with that because that means he doesn't get any. He gets his money, and he has no wear and tear on his body. So he's probably hoping that happens. To be honest with you. So I want. Would you like him on the Jets? Do you want him on the Jets? Because you have Sam Darnold on a rookie contract, which is very salary cap friendly. So is that something you think you'd even take on?
I would like him on the Jets next season because I don't bringing a guy like him in right now. I don't know. He'd be very good. Don't get me wrong, but Crowell is looking good, and this is Powell's final season. I like him. He's been a good Jet for a while. If Bell comes in, that means that Powell probably sits on the bench, and I don't know. I'm a fan of this 1-2 punch. Maybe I just got used to it. The Jets have a history of bringing in older running backs and them succeeding. Tomlinson did well. Curtis Martin did well.
I was just going to say he did very well.
Yeah, so it didn't push the teams over the top. So I would like to see Bell come in, but I'm not sure I want him to come in this year. I don't think it serves anybody. But you bring him in after Darnold's got a year under his belt in the offseason, and that really can do wonders for this football team.
There's going to be people – I think we said it last week or we said on the podcast, there's going to be teams falling over each other next year to sign Le'Veon Bell. It doesn't matter what he wants. Some teams have that kind of money, and other teams don't. Other teams just don't want to pay him.
Yeah, so this is barring an injury. I like the 1-2 punch the Jets have going. But again, Bell's a bigger playmaker. So perhaps he does net the Jets 3 or 4 points a game. That may have been an extra victory already. They're one of the few teams that actually can afford him. I'd get on board. He's a dynamic player. He'd make everybody better. I can't really fault that. It'd be a completely different team, but and
this is why I was so on board with saying I wanted the Giants to draft Saquon Barkley, because they haven't had a running game since Tiki Barber. And It's funny, the second he left, we went on and won a Super Bowl. So go, be that as it may, you need a running game. All the top teams in the league had a running game. When Dallas was 12-4, miraculously, Zeke was running all over the place. Gurley, Gurley, he's a season and a game changer. It's unbelievable. Bell, we just talked about. You need these bell cow backs because, as you mentioned, all these are all cold weather teams that, well, not all of them, but all the teams that if you want to win in the playoffs, you need a running game.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a good transition to the final topic I wanted to bring up today before I throw one over to you. There are several teams that everyone was very high on before the year. Packers are one of them. The Steelers are one of them. And they have Pro Bowl quarterbacks. Both have probably Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Am I kidding? I don't think either one's looked very good this year. Now, Pittsburgh salvaged something against Tampa Bay, but they only won by 3. They let Tampa Bay come back. And honestly, Fitzpatrick threw three interceptions, 1 for a touchdown. So if he actually was not himself and he always throws his picks. That's what happens. That's his MO. But the Steelers didn't really win that game. I do feel like Tampa Bay lost it. I don't think the Steelers are a playoff team right now. I don't think the Packers are a playoff team right now. What are your take on some of these two?
So for those two, we talked about Le'Veon Bell, and there's kind of like a little bit of a black cloud over that team, obviously with the whole Bell situation. But the last 2 weeks, Antonio Brown's been kind of silently, whining about not getting his targets. Last week Juju Smith had that enormous game, and Antonio Brown was seen on the sidelines yelling at his offensive coordinator. Not so much this week, but he got his touchdown. But it's like there's just a little bit of unrest in Pittsburgh, and Ben's been relatively healthy this year. Granted, it's only been 4 games, but you almost expect him to get some sort of ailment because he had almost everything. So there's a little bit of it's like that division is. There's no one knocking down the door yet. Cincinnati's okay. Ravens are okay. But there's nobody like steamrolling through that division. So Pittsburgh may just win it by default just because of, the –
Yeah, I'll go like this because I don't think the Steelers are playing any defense. And I do like the defensive effort I've seen out of Cincinnati. The Ravens have been I'm questioning their defense. But
I actually did pick Cincinnati to quietly win that division. But I did make the playoffs or the Steelers a playoff team as a wild card. So
okay. Yeah, I was down on the Bengals because I just don't. I have a hard time believing in Andy Dalton until I see him get done.
Yeah,
but I like their defense.
Yeah, going over to Green Bay. I mean, Green Bay again has no solid running game. They have 3 guys if you want to call. They just got Aaron Jones back. So you got Aaron Jones, Ty Montgomery, and I forget the other guy's name, something Williams.
Yeah.
So they have 3 running backs. They only really have Devontae Adams as their wide receiver. Jordy Nelson's gone, and Geronimo Allison's a rookie. And then there's another guy. It's slipping my mind, but they have one go-to receiver. So if you want to double Devontae Adams the whole time, you got to throw to somebody else. They rarely use their tight end, so it's almost like they're missing a piece too. So those 2 teams who are perennial playoff teams year in and year out, quite possibly could be looking at the playoffs, from the couch. And that obviously all depends on Aaron Rodgers' knee.
Oh yeah, well, so he's kind of hurt. I forgot about that. But like, I'm happy not to be a fan of one of these teams because they didn't do anything to help their Hall of Fame quarterbacks in the prime. Like these guys only have a couple seasons left. Maybe Rodgers got a few more than Roethlisberger, but they've been getting hurt. They only got a few seasons left, and they didn't do anything to help them in the offseason. What did Green Bay do to replace the hole that was Jordy Nelson? I'm just like.
Oh, nothing. And I think Aaron Rodgers was a little upset about that because that was his go-to target. So I think it was kind of documented that he was not happy about that move.
Yeah. And so, I mean, both these guys got Super Bowls already. They got paid. So they'd ideally like to go out on top. But I just don't see it happening with these current teams.
Well, this is how the NFL is supposed to be. There's your few exceptions. Green Bay is always there. Pittsburgh is always there. The Patriots are obviously always there. But every other team goes through the cycle a lot quicker. The Giants win a Super Bowl, then they don't make the playoffs for a few years. Then they win a Super Bowl, then they don't make the playoffs for a few years.
Yeah.
As we get closer to playoff time, there's 5 or 6 teams every year that don't make the playoffs from the year before, which is great because it gives every team pretty much hope at the beginning of the year, and that's why the NFL is so great.
Yeah.
But those 2 teams you're talking about they're so perennially good. When we see them start to falter, we start to wonder, is this the end of their, at the end of their run here?
And so this is fun because it's September, but I do think we're overreacting because Kansas City hasn't played any defense. So
they don't. No, they can't. No.
I don't believe in them yet either. So in a month from now, are we just talking about same teams at the top? September was just a fun how do you do, but it didn't mean anything. I don't know. We'll see.
That could possibly be right. Yeah, you're right. I mean, can Patrick Mahomes and Ryan Fitzpatrick keep throwing 4 touchdowns a game? That's amazing right now. I think Patrick Mahomes has the record for the most touchdowns through a 3-game span.
Yeah.
13, 14. That's eventually, it has to come back down to earth at some point.
Yeah.
But
I knew Andy Reid was a quarterback whisperer, but damn. So,
yeah.
All right. So you got a final topic?
Let's see. So we briefly touched on it earlier, but it's amazing how all 4 of those rookie quarterbacks are starting week 4. Whether or not by injury or just they were going to start from the beginning, like in Darnold's case. But, Dan, how the hell did the Buffalo Bills railroad Minnesota? How did that even happen? No LaShawn McCoy. Josh Allen was starting. Stephon Diggs was essentially invisible.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins is throwing interceptions and fumbles all over the place. And this is supposed to be one of the top defenses in the entire league in Minnesota.
I think there's a 2-factor here because I've noticed every one of these teams has really stepped it up for their rookie quarterback. I don't know. I haven't seen this in other years, but like the Jets had this energy about them with Darnold in game 1 that was unbelievable. And like it didn't quite carry forward after that because now he's just your quarterback. But Mayfield had this energy in the Browns when he came in, and we'll see if it carries forward. Now Josh Allen starting for Buffalo. They just were on a different level behind him. Now, he did play the week before, but I don't know. This to me makes me question the Vikings. Now, everyone has a bad game that's forgettable, that's an anomaly on their schedule, especially the winning teams, right? There's always one. The Patriots got blown out last year, week one.
They can go off 10 more wins, and everyone will forget that Buffalo beat them. It won't matter.
Right. But I think it comes down to the fact nobody is actually as bad as their record, and nobody's as good as their record, because any team can win on any given week if you scheme it right. And I'm not sure. Minnesota was down a player or two from injury last week.
Dalvin Cook didn't play.
Yeah, so it's just, and I think that the Vikings underestimated the Bills. So it's like you buy into the narrative that this team is so bad. This team is so bad. Remember when we used to play that one team in football that was winless? Yeah, they were winless. We always underestimated them, and I do think we actually beat them most of the time. But they beat us once because we completely underestimated them and just thought this is the worst team, and then we didn't show up. So.
I remember. Yeah, I will never forget that. Bullard Havens. I remember.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot more mental to football than people give credit for, especially when you got this whole group of guys, and these rookies are kind of bringing it out in their teammates, and everyone's underestimating them, which is kind of silly after what Watson and Wentz did last season. We kind of know you can believe in rookies, so it's interesting.
All right, so before we wrap up, we'll give a quick prediction for our guys. Okay. What do you think happens against Jacksonville with the Jets and Jets? So they're home against Jacksonville. No, they're on the road.
No, they're on the road.
Yeah, they're in Jacksonville. It might be 100 degrees again down in Jacksonville, like it was when the Patriots played them.
I think the Jets will play them close. I'd be surprised if Jacksonville doesn't pull off a victory. I still think they're a playoff team, and they're at home. They should rebound after their embarrassing loss to Tennessee. But Blake Bortles is not great. Fournette's hurt. So if the Jets can get to Bortles and turn the ball over, force more turnovers. They've been forcing a lot of turnovers. They got the most interceptions in the league. Maybe not the most. They're up near the top in interceptions, which is huge. That's never happened. I don't know if Marcus May is going to be back yet. I hope he comes back. If he comes back, I do think the Jets defense can stop Jacksonville's offense. And they're going to need that to get points on the board, because I'm not sure that the Jets offense can do much against Jacksonville. It could be another 9-6 game, and that's really a toss-up which way it swings. My money would be on Jacksonville, but I haven't looked at the point spread yet. If the Jets are getting 7, I would probably take the Jets plus 7, because I don't think that their defense is being given enough credit yet, and Jacksonville looked atrocious. So they're probably somewhere in the middle of week 2 and 3 and not as good and not as bad. But the Jets have played 3 close games, or 2 close games was their losses. So if they're getting 7, I'd take the points. I haven't looked at the spread, but I can't pick against Jacksonville yet because I still think they're a playoff team. So it's just –
and it's tough that they had that really, like you said, that bad loss in Tennessee, which I still don't even get. I wouldn't have picked Jacksonville to lose that game. So
no. So then how about you on the Giants? Where do you see them against New Orleans?
Well, a few things have to happen. One, they have to protect Eli like they did last week. They have to score points, and I'm with you. If they play defense, because all the teams that the Saints played, their defense is not good. Tampa Bay, obviously, we saw last night, does not have a good defense. Atlanta is ravaged with injuries. They don't have a good defense. The Browns have they have an okay defense. And if you remember, they only scored. First of all, they should have lost that game. They only scored 21 points in overtime. So they held this high-powered Saints team that's scoring 50 points a game to 21.
Yep.
So if the Giants defense shows up, hopefully Vernon plays. He's been out 3 weeks with his high ankle sprain. I don't know how long that usually takes, but he should be returning. And Eli Apple comes back, and Jenkins plays well. Collins plays well. Ogletree's playing well. Snacks is stopping the run game because, they don't have a running back per se, but Kamara is just on another level. He's unbelievable. Yeah. So if you stop Kamara and you stop Breeze and you got to put a guy Michael Thomas, basically if they play defense, we've seen what you can do to the Saints if you do put a little pressure on them. If you don't play defense, they're going to put 50 points up on you. So
is Barkley going to find the end zone more than once this time? Because he's due.
I think he's going to find it at least once. Maybe he'll find it once on the ground and then once, once in the air. So, listen, again, I love seeing Barkley scoring touchdowns. I think it's great. I think Beckham – I will say this. I think Beckham finally scores a touchdown this week.
Okay.
Beckham will get in the end zone. He's the only – he's due. I think he's the only receiver that doesn't have a touchdown yet.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I think you're right.
Shepard has one. Ingram has one. Barkley has two. Rhett Ellison has one. Shepard's he's due. They're going to give him the ball. I think the Giants win a close game, but it's going to be like 31-28, something like that. I think it's going to be a higher scoring affair, which is great because we want to see that. We want to see points.
And this is must win because their division is completely wide open. I don't believe in any of those teams yet, so this is a big week for the Giants.
The Eagles easily could have lost last week, which I was really hoping for. But
yeah,
Carson Wentz's first game back. But again, we said it last week. There's no receivers, no Alshon Jeffrey. Yeah. Jay Ajayi's hurt. They have a bunch of holes, much like every team has a bunch of holes. And you're right, that division is still up for grabs. And you just got to keep winning. That's what you got to do. Take care of the teams you're supposed to, and hopefully steal a couple of these games against the teams that you are not favored against.
Right.
But it's amazing. I was on the lowest of lows last week. Last week after the Dallas game. I didn't think they had a chance against the Texans because of Clowney and J.J. Watt and that great defense. I was proven wrong, thank God. I'm very happy to be proven wrong. So much like you, I'm the optimist, and I'm looking for positive things and hoping for the best.
Well, I'm hoping to be sitting here next week saying the same thing as you just said about the Jets. Can I get a little toast to Bud for that to happen before we finish up here?
Dilly dilly, Bud.
Yes, there we go. I don't have Bud Light, but I'll drink to that. All right.
So here's to coming back next week with 2 wins, and we'll get our third man back in the booth.
Yes. We got to keep him happy, so we got to have a Jets victory.
Yeah, we got to keep him happy. So, all right, everyone, thanks for tuning in again.
Yep, I'm Dan Salem, at the Dan Salem, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And where can we find the Section 323 podcast?
You can find us on any of your podcast apps, Podcast Addict, iTunes, Google Play. We have it up on the website at viewfromsection323.com. We have the Facebook page, the Instagram page. So we're all over the place.
All right.
View from Section 323.
Very cool. And we will be back next week, going up every Tuesday night on BuzzChomp. All right. Thank you. Good night.
Bye.